We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the ground we stand on and thank them for allowing Papa to tell stories on these glorious lands we share.
Our guest on this episode of 3 Food Memories is a 50-year-old podcaster who wears glasses and is a gay parent of twin 10-year-old boys. OMG, we're almost the same person. She's also a critically acclaimed comedian who packs in a whirlwind of wit, fury and relatable chaos. Her upbringing, her exuberant mum and reserved British surroundings have fueled much of her comedy gold. Not only is she funny, she is arrestingly passionate and uses her platform to make audiences pay attention to what they might otherwise be trying to hide from. So if it feels like she's yelling at us today, she's not. She's just recognised that we're in a time where we need to think outside ourselves and give. With a big heart, Jen Brister, I welcome you to 3 Food Memories.
What a lovely. That's probably the nicest introduction I've ever had, Sava. Thank you so much. Shall we? Can you record it? Well, this is recorded. This is the whole point of this is a podcast. I want to have it, and then I'm going to use it as my ringtone. That's going to go on the phone.
With my voice.
Can you imagine? Jen Brister is a critically acclaimed... Oh, sorry, guys. I can't seem to find my phone.
It's a gift. It's our gift to you for being with us.
It's a delight. Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to get straight into the very big part of your story, and that's your mother, Stella.
Yes.
Let's go straight in there. Let's go into the juicy bits of goodness.
Okay. Well, I mean, anyone has seen my stand-up comedy will know that she's Spanish. She was a very big personality. I think very direct, and I would just say anyone that knew my mum would go zero filter. So she didn't ever mince her words. I don't think my mum ever thought, I wonder how what I say might impact on this person. She just went, I've got a thought and I'm going to say it. And sometimes it would be lovely because it would be that person would be blindsided by like, oh my God, that's so kind of you. Thank you so much. And other times it'd be like, Jesus, Mum, did you want to sugar that pill a little bit? And her way of showing love was entirely food-based. It was entirely food-based. So when friends came round, my mum would just... I used to say, my brothers and I would say to our friends, look, listen, when you come to our house and my mum is asking you if you want another portion, you have to say no 2 portions earlier. Because, if she's spooning food out, when she goes, say stop, you say stop 2 spoonfuls before you want it to stop, because she'll add another 2. Whenever you say stop, she goes, okay, but a little bit more, come on. So she was very generous, very kind, but, she didn't... I was going to say she didn't really fit in the UK because I'm sure, as all your audience will know, British people are much more reserved. We don't really say what we think. We're a bit more passive-aggressive, sarcastic, cynical. And my mum didn't have any of those traits. She was just... I'm just going to tell you what I think. So it was interesting to see her navigate her way through British society, and it was like the passing of the seas as my mum walked through and British people went, what the fuck is going on?
And where did she come from in Spain?
She was born in Las Palmas in Gran Canaria. And so she's a lot of my family are from the Canary Islands, but her father was from Galicia in western Spain. So we have family scattered all over western central Spain, and most of the Canary Islands is where my family are. So Tenerife, La Gomera, Fuerteventura, and mostly Gran Canaria. Yeah.
And how did she find herself in the UK?
Well, my mum lived... so my mum was born in 1945, and she grew up during... just after the Spanish Civil War. So Franco was in power. So my mum grew up through a dictatorship, and she lived on an island. And my mum found it, I think, at a certain point quite oppressive and quite repressive and very conservative, which my mum isn't. or wasn't. She wasn't a very conservative person. She was in some ways, but in like she was socially very liberal, sort of ahead of her time, really. So she decided that she was going to go to the UK, and her plan was to go to the UK to train as a nurse, and then to come back to Spain and get married and have children. And she went over. She became an au pair, and then she started training as a nurse. She met my dad, and then she never went back to Spain. She stayed in the UK. She fell in love
with Dad.
Yeah, with that bell end. She fell in love with him. I mean, I wish she met.
There is it for this podcast.
There's a different story. Let's not scratch that. Let's not scratch that scab. Yeah. So she met my dad, and then she stayed. Yeah.
Most of your food memories are associated with your mother's cooking, and you've tried to mix that up in what you've shared with me today. But describe your mother's cooking to us.
Well, my mum was, I grew up, so I was born in 1975. So I don't know what it was like in Australia in the 70s and 80s, but I imagine it wasn't that dissimilar to what it was like here. Or maybe it was more culturally diverse in some ways in Australia, but you couldn't get garlic. Garlic was not something anyone was cooking with in the 70s. It's just, so my mum was this woman that cooked very exotic food. She, there wasn't, I don't think my mum ever cooked a meal without garlic, actually, thinking about it. And she, we would go to this Spanish, I guess it was a Spanish supermarket or a delicatessen. There was only one, and it was in central London, and we would go annually, and my mum would buy like everything that she could, like all the olive oil and all of the sometimes we'd get treats like turon and, squid and all of that. So she'd buy all of the food and then sort of it would last for the year, because you couldn't buy a lot of that stuff in the supermarkets. I mean, later on, sort of in the 80s and late 80s and 90s, it was fine. So when people used to come around my house and eat, my friends were like, what is this stuff that your mum's cooking? And it was quite, when I was in primary school, I went to school with a lot of, it was a mixture of children. So a lot of them from India or from Korea. So not so much when I was at primary school, but certainly at the beginning of secondary school, where it was much more English people. They just couldn't. I remember my friend came round and my mum had cooked a Galician squid stew. And my mum, and my mum was like, she was so proud of this stew. And I was like, Mum, I don't think, my friend just refused to eat it. She was like, it looks like rubber bands. I'm not eating that. I just remember always loving food. I always looked forward to dinner time. There were very few meals that my mum cooked where I went, oh God, not. Do you know what I mean? So when people used to say, I hate dinner time, I couldn't understand it. I was like, couldn't wait for dinner time. Dinner time was great. Loved it.
I'm thinking about the way you speak about your mum now and her directness and her timing and delivery. Do you see much of that in your comedy?
I think that's a good question. I mean, I guess so, yes. I think certainly I'd like to think I'm slightly... I can read a room slightly better than my mum can, but or could rather. But I guess in my delivery, my stand-up, yes, I think that's fair. I think I'm very to the point. I'm very direct. I don't pull a punch in my stand-up, and I enjoy that because it creates tension, and you can cut the tension, and that's where the laugh comes. And also because I think a lot of my comedy is also about, people can vicariously let off steam watching my stand-up, whether it be about talking about my children or talking about my relationship with my mum, or just talking about what it's like to be a woman right now, and all the problems that we have. So, and that requires a certain directness, because otherwise it's not going to work. If you're not honest, if you don't tell the truth, the audience can tell. They're like, oh, you don't really mean that. So I've got to come at it. I've got to come at it in this quite direct and sometimes, some people might say, aggressive, confrontational way.
Well, it's a lived experience, isn't it? You've lived through. You've been an audience member of your own stuff, because mum's, that's what mum gave you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've just so many things I want to get into with you've just mentioned. But I think the best thing to do, let's start with your food memories because I'm going to get lost in everything that you've opened up. So your first food memory took place about 14 years ago, and it's around a fancy degustation.
Yes. So I went to this was at a time in my life where I was completely skint. And, I was making money as a stand-up comedian, but I wasn't really, I was very much living hand to mouth. So I had plenty of work, but I never had any money, as a lot of stand-up comedians will be able to relate to this. You can work really, really hard and you're just sort of keeping your head above water, just paying rent and stuff. You're not going, right, well, I'll go out for a fancy meal or I'm going to go on a nice holiday. You're just like, okay, I'm earning a living. Great. So my brother... And I can't even remember what the occasion was. Maybe it was my mum's birthday for my mum or Mother's Day or something like that. My brother was like, I'm going to take mum to this really fancy Michelin-star restaurant and I think you should come and Chloe, my partner. And I'd like never been to a fancy restaurant, like Michelin-star or anything like that before. And I was like, oh my God, I would love to. And anyway, we went and I don't know what I was expecting, but it was a tasting menu. There was like 15 courses. And I swear to God, every single course that came, I was like, what is happening? And also, I'd never had a tasting menu before, so I didn't understand that these courses kept coming. So I thought there was 3, and I was like, God, is that it? And they were like, my brother was like, no, there's another 12. And I was like, I thought, what? There's another 12? He was like, yeah, it's just going to keep coming. And the food kept coming. And this is literally, my mum and I were like, oh my God, we're in absolute heaven. And every single time this meal came, we would just... It was just incredible. It was Indian food. Atul Kochhar and his restaurant was in Mayfair, and it was absolutely. I mean, obviously, I've never been back because I didn't even want to look at the price of the bill. But the way that my mum was, I've never seen her happier. Is to see this like carousel of food that never seemed to end, and
that she didn't have to cook.
That she didn't have to cook, and also my mum used to like a glass of wine, so it was all perfect. It was all perfect, and I still think about that meal a lot.
Is there any particular dish that stood out?
I mean, there were so many dishes that came out that were like, and they were all a twist on a traditional Indian curry that you might get. There was like these Kerala prawns that came out. I don't know what Kerala prawns means, but it was like a Kerala South Indian prawn dish. And it literally was one of the most incredible things I've ever had. There was like a lamb. They were like lamb chops, but in like these Indian spices. And you got like, I think you might have only got one actually. I can't remember. And I remember eating that going, what is this? This is like, I'm not a vegetarian. So, I realise I probably should be. I'm a bad person, but I still eat meat. And there were so many incredible... I think there was one take. There was only one dish that I remember thinking I could have swerved this. It was their take on a British pork pie, which they'd made into sort of. I was like, no, I don't need this. I don't ever need a pork pie. Full stop. The end. I don't care what you've done to it.
I remember there was a phase, or there was a trend in eating where degustations were all the rage. You would go, but I actually find them less communal eating. It's very singular, that one plate, and it's for you only. There's none of that interaction. I mean, like there is with, say, shared plates, where as your mum would put down on the table. So it's
yes,
like
that's
a
true,
theatre, isn't it? It's like a theatre.
It is.
And so, I mean, Rachel Griffiths, one of our previous guests, she hates degustation, and in particular, she hates them when it comes to pairing them with wine because it makes her physically sick. But I guess the first time...
Oh my God, I love it, really. That's and then here I come. Actually, I think you're going to find that this is one of the most
but if it's a first-time experience.
Yes, it was. And and I think it was the pleasure that we got from seeing my mum just going, what, another dish? And I think it was all of us seeing how much she enjoyed it, which was why I think we enjoyed it. But you're right, it is a very singular thing. The dish that's placed in front of you is for you alone. It's not for anyone else. You're not sharing it. It's not like a shared experience in the same way that you have, when you go to other restaurants or even where you get sharing plates, like you said. It is a sort of more, I suppose, individual centred experience. But that aside, we still managed to make it a very, communal affair as my family.
Were you waking up the diners around you? Were they kind of looking at what's going on the table over there?
I think so. I mean, I think it was. It was very up its own butt, and also Mayfair in London is like one of the most obnoxious parts of London to go to. It's just absolutely dripping in dough, but just everyone's got money, and that's not us. But my mum just never got taken to nice restaurants, So this was such a lovely experience. And to have, and also, just have a nice sort of like my mum, she got to taste the wine before we picked it, that sort of thing. We're like, Mum, you choose it, because she had so many opinions. It was really not a good idea for us to choose. Anytime we ever chose anything, she'd be like, no, I don't like this. I don't like it. It'd be like,
so she,
okay,
but that accent actually stayed thick right to the end, Jen.
Yeah, she never really, I think her accent did become less. Certainly when I was a child, absolutely nobody could understand anything my mum said. I don't know what that was, because I couldn't understand that, because I was like, well, she's speaking English, so I don't know what you're talking about. I never heard my mum's accent. And so when I do an impersonation of my mum, it's almost I'm doing an impersonation of what I think English people can hear, because I never really heard my mum's accent. And when people say, is that what your mum sounded like? I'd be like, not really, but that's what you think she sounds like. And when I speak to people and go, does my mum sound like that? They'd be like, she sounds exactly like that. And I think it's just because English people just hear a generic foreign accent and don't know what to do with themselves, even to this day.
Let's talk about what you and I both have in common, parenthood. In particular, parenthood to two twin 10-year-old boys. Now, you've written a memoir about it, The Other Mother.
Yeah.
Now, this is your story of being a non-biological mum in a same-sex marriage.
Yes.
To a lot of people, and I get this, and I get this all the time. I'm a single father of two, father of. I got to fix all that up. What am I? I'm a gay dad of two twin-year-old boys. I mean, something that's completely untraditional. Like it doesn't really happen, and I get it with people all the time. I don't feel that my family is not untraditional until somebody gives me that look, and then I go, oh, right, that's how they don't. Do you get that? I
live in a bubble of where I live in the UK. I live in Brighton, which is, excuse me. I live in Brighton, which is, I suppose, one of the most liberal and gay-friendly towns, cities in the UK. So, I have a lot of queer friends who have children. So I suppose I don't get it where I live. But yes, outside of here, particularly when my children were small, I did get it a lot. Like, there was just a lot of questions like, oh, I don't understand. I was like, what don't you understand? It's just, but I don't understand how you've got two children. I was like, well, don't know that you need to understand. You just need to accept that I do. Like, the inference was, how did you do it? Tell me how you did it. I don't really understand how this is even possible. Sometimes it wasn't meant in a sort of no, people weren't trying to be unkind or make me feel uncomfortable, but they did make me feel uncomfortable, and it did feel very intrusive.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, and they're kind of, because to get there, it actually takes a lot, and there's a lot that happens behind closed doors, and don't you think? There is a lot of you that it's and because you're not afforded the traditional ways of having a family, but then you are a fam. Like,
no, I mean, I think you're right. I think a family, what is a family? It's a unit of people, and how is that unit created? Well, it kind of is irrelevant. You have a unit of people who, two parents who have, or guardians, or that have that you have children and you love each other and you support your children and you give them boundaries and you give them unconditional love and you give them respect and you give them guidance and moral values and you try to set them up to go out and be happy and you remind them that you're always there. And that's outside of that, whether you're in a relationship or whether you're a lesbian or gay or whether you're transsexual or non-binary that's all irrelevant. What do children need? They don't care about your gender, your identity or your sexuality. They just want you to love them, and that's it. And that's what we do as parents. But there is still this I suppose we have this idea that parents or a family, what is a family? A family is a man and a woman who have had sexual relations to conceive a child. And that is not what a family is. That is what one family is. And we know even within that unit, those parents might split up. It might be one person might become a single parent. One person might be, halfway into that relationship and go, actually, I've realised I'm gay. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's whatever. It doesn't. I find it tedious to have to keep explaining.
That's a perfect word. And it's just like, you know what? I'm going through hell right now. I've had to wake up in the morning. I've had to get them up out of bed, get them dressed, watch magic shows.
Oh my, watch magic shows. That's right, Sava. That's what I had to do this morning. 5 magic tricks before I'd even open my eyes. I was like, Jesus Christ, can I have a coffee first before we get through to the 5th magic trick? But also, Sava, to do it alone, Jesus, I just think all single parents should have a national holiday.
Well, I don't know.
That's just for them. just for them. No. It says 2 of you. You don't get a holiday. No. They're getting the holiday.
But it's normal to me. Like, it's just juggling. It's somehow...
It's not. Sava, it's not. It's not just juggling. To do it all on your own is literally... I don't know how you do it. I hope you've got some support.
Rob from Peter to give to Paul.
Good.
You're constantly taking from here, there and everywhere. And you are walking on sort of some, you're actually not sleeping. You're doing everything in sleep time. That's how I'm keeping it together. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, you sound like a great dad.
No, let's ask them. Just speaking of asking them, actually, it's Mother's Day. It will be Mother's Day soon here in Australia, and I got a call from one of the educators at the school, and mind you, the boys have been at the school for 5 years, and I get a call saying, "Hi, it's Mother's Day. We just want to know if Leo and Dane have a significant female in their life that we can celebrate." And I thought, you know what? I'm really confident that my kids have everything they need. So I just said to the educator, "Hey, why don't you ask them? I'm sure they'll be able to answer it."
Yeah.
They came back the next day, and I'm sure this is the same with your boys. They came back the next day or that time after. "Papa, the teacher asked us this really weird question." And I said, "Okay, well, what was the weird question?" And they said, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, "Well, what did you say?" "Well, Mimi, like Mimi's my mum."
Yeah.
And so they have everything. I don't think. I mean, you give them everything. I mean, don't you? Don't you give your 2? What are their names, by the way?
Gabriel and Luca, and they're great. They're great, and they have a lovely life. They have a lovely life, and they're very happy. And yes, they are aware that they don't have a father, but they often say, we don't need a dad. We've got mama. And like they. This is how they've been brought up, and they have men in their life. They've got their grandfather, they've got 2 uncles, they've got, I've got male friends that they see regularly. We take them they're obsessed with basketball, so they've got coaches and stuff, and we make sure that they have, because they feel like they do need male input as well, particularly as they head into adolescence. I think that's quite good to have a man that they can go, "Oh, this guy is a good guy, and I can look to him, because there's going to be certain things that I'm not going to be able to offer them. But we try to offer them everything and all of those things. And I don't think they're wanting for a single thing.
in your book, The Other Mother, what do you talk about?
The Other Mother for me was, I originally wrote it because before my children were born, and it was mainly down to my own neurosis, when Chloe was pregnant, I was very nervous about what my relationship with my children would be like. I was like, because I'm not related to them. We don't have any biological connection. What if they're like, who's this woman that just keeps hanging around? I don't know who she is. She's here all the time. I had all of these anxieties. I mean, she's nice, but I don't know why she's here.
I know you're a comedian, but did you really think all that?
Yeah, no, totally. I was like, I don't know what's going on with. And also the other thing I was worried about is, what if they turn up and I'm like, oh God, I've got nothing to say to you people. I've got no connection to you. So I had all of this. Anyway, spoiler, that didn't happen. But what I wanted to do, and then I was wondering, what about the connecting? How will I bond with them? Will it take longer? Will it take longer for my children to bond with me because we don't have that biological connection and I didn't give birth to them? I'm not breastfeeding them. I'm not doing all of those things. How will our relationship be? How will I be able to ensure that I have a close relationship with my children? So I had all of these sort of neurotic things. Now, of course, your children don't give a shit where you come from and who you are. That's not, you're there and they're delighted. And in terms of my wanting to bond with my children, that I just kind of, as I said to Chloe, I said, I'm just going to force myself on them. So, a lot of the time when the kids are small, they want to be with their mum, they want to be breastfed, but I was just like, sometimes it would be me that would bottle feed them, after Chloe had pumped. And I just wanted them to have that, to get to know my smell, get to know me. And so I would stay up and I would feed them, and I would get up in the night and change their nappies, and I would do all of that sort of stuff. And what I wanted to do is write a book just to reassure people, just to have a book that goes, you might have these thoughts. You might be feeling this. You might go out and people will say to you, "Oh, how was the birth?" And you'll be like, it was great, actually. It just slid out. You're just, whatever. You're going to get into these conversations that are going to make you feel awkward. And I'm just going to write a book, and it's going to be a funny book. And I'm just going to tell you my story. And if you read my story and it helps you, great. And that's what I wanted to write. And it wasn't for me going, this is how it is. It was just me saying, this is how it was for me. It might be like this for you. And if you have any of these feelings, they're perfectly normal. This is what I did. And this is also what I did. And I would recommend you definitely don't do this. This was an error. Please avoid doing this. So the book covers Chloe trying to get pregnant, me and Chloe trying to get her pregnant, and then up until they're 2. So it's that covers that entire period. And then once I get to 2, I'm like, you're ready to go. You're fine. Off you go.
Well, you're in the thick of it. It doesn't matter anymore. It's like it's survival, isn't it? Like
it's survival. I don't know how you did that alone.
Do you know there's some great photos I took when I was it was just me. I was about to say breastfeeding, but bottle feeding them, where they used to sleep in parallel in the cot, like that way, and I would get face washes or small towels, and I would roll them up into these cylindrical shapes, and I'd get the little babies to face each other. I'm going to post a photo of actually. Get the little boys to post to face each other, and then I'd get like a little bolster of a towel next to their faces, and I'd put one bottle in one and one bottle in the other, and then I taught them like sort of like puppy school, and I taught them to hold on to their bottles, their respective bottles, and to angle the bottle so that I could just watch them both, or just take calls, do emails, because there was a lot going on as they fed themselves, and they would be looking at each other. It's like they were across the table. So there was a lot of that.
Oh, that's so cute.
There was so cute. There was a lot of that. But I had to get creative on how I did it. Do you know, I often speak. You speak about connection. How am I going to connect with these guys? For the first 3 months, I was not. I was there, but I was not there, and and I really struggled, and it was like, do you know, I did actually. I packed up and left the kids with my mum and went to Mykonos for a week because I was like, I'm going, and they were brand new, literally out of the box.
Sava, that's it's the most overwhelming. With 1, overwhelming. With 2, alone, forget it. When did you sleep?
I kind of got them to sleeping quite early in the piece. But the thing was, being a bloke, and this is where I realised the actual differences between male and female. Testosterone, men will give if they get back. Women are just at the coalface, boom, boom, fighting fires. You know, they're there. Because I wasn't getting anything from these little humans, I wasn't getting any smiles or any coos or anything. They were too young. They were just needing to,
They're just blobs.
Blobs.
Yeah.
But once they started smiling and giving and holding onto my finger and stuff, it's like, yeah, Houston, we have a touchdown, we have a connection. So it did take a good 3-4 months to get there. And I'm the biological dad.
I hear that a lot from dads. I hear that a lot.
So, and it's this pressure to kind of, and I was trying and I was doing all the right things, but maybe I let them cry for 5 more seconds than they needed to for me to get into the room and...
Yeah, but maybe you needed 5 more seconds just to take a breath and be able to do the thing. When they were that small and they was, and they did not sleep at all, it was just absolutely horrendous. It was really difficult to have any perspective on absolutely anything. I literally had zero perspective. I was still gigging. I was still, working. I would make sure I would only gig at weekends and I was around all the time during the week. But I was broken. I used to wander around with a fucking Red Bull.
How was Chloe?
Chloe was serene. Honestly, I looked like somebody who had. I looked homeless actually at points, and like I had some sort of real problem with barbiturates. I didn't look okay, and Chloe, just her hair was really thick, her skin looked great. She loved the fact that because she was double breastfeeding, she lost a ton of weight. Not that she had much weight to lose. She was like, "Oh my God, look at me, look at my waist." I was like, okay, so we're having 2 very different experiences here. And I feel like her body was giving her these hormones that were making her feel really happy. And I know this isn't the same for every woman, and I know a lot of women suffer from severe postnatal depression, and that is a completely different story. But I can only speak to what Chloe was doing, and she was buzzing. I was like, you look like you're on the best class days of your life. I am dying here. I just feel like when I look back at the photographs of her and the photographs of me, I look like someone's drunk uncle, and she just looks, she looks fantastic. I said that to her recently. She said, I did feel good back then. I was like, oh, I'm glad you didn't tell me that, because I felt terrible.
Let's move on to your second food memory, a Thai green curry.
So I was in Thailand. I can't remember where exactly, one of the islands in Thailand. I can't remember, somewhere like Koh Phangan or somewhere like that. This is many years ago. This was mid-90s. And I'd been living in Thailand at this point for about 3 months. So I felt like I'm practically Thai. I was one of those bellends. I had my fisherman drawstring trousers. I was wandering around without a bra, thinking that I was, at one with the people when I was just this big fat tourist. And I used to really enjoy a spicy curry. And we were at a different restaurant that I hadn't been to before. And I ordered a green curry. And the chap said to me, oh, and I hadn't never been asked this before. He said, do you want Thai hot or like, tourist hot? And I said, obviously Thai hot, because I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm wearing drawstring trousers. So I'm practically Thai. And anyway, this curry arrived. I plough straight into it because I love Thai food. Like Thai food is like, for me, like the pinnacle of all the best, all that's great about food is all happening in Thai food for me. You've got spice, you've got coconut, you've got lemongrass, you've got chili, you've got coriander, you've got everything. I'm into it. Let's go. Let's do this. So I plow into this curry. Holy crap! I'm like, and the guy he's looking over at me to see how is this idiot coping with her Thai green curry, Thai hot. And I'm trying not to show. And I said, my friend said, "Are you okay?" And I said, I think this is. I said, I think I've over. This might be too hot for me. I start to sweat. There's beads of sweat. My mate went, "How hot is it?" I went, "It's. I think it might be too hot." But I'm determined. Like it's too hot. It's not. It's actually inedible. But this guy is looking at me, so I go, "I've got a second mouthful of this," and I really put quite a lot of rice in this time, and I smash it into my face again. And again, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, I can't feel my gums. Is this normal? Why is my throat on fire, but my tongue isn't? What's happening? Help me. Can anyone else feel their teeth? I think I can feel my teeth. I'm having this absolutely horrendous time. And I just can't finish it. I mean, I leave it. And the guy was like, came over and he went, "Too hot?" And I went, "Yeah, it's too hot, mate. It's too hot." But he looked delighted, like I'd really made his evening. So I think at least I gave him that gift. But it was holy moly. I think there were two really hot meals that I had in Thailand, and one was a green papaya salad in Bangkok,
yum.
and one was which one of my faves, and it was like literally inedible. It just blew my face off. And this Thai green curry, which I think actually beat the papaya salad, and it was such a shame because I was starving. I was so hungry, and then I couldn't eat this bloody meal. I was so gutted.
What do the boys like to eat?
Whatever I bloody well tell them to eat, and I won't have it. You will eat your broccoli, and it's good for you. It's full of calcium and other things. Don't question me. Just eat it. One of my boys is very adventurous, and like I feel like he's lived before many times, because he has loved eating things. Oh God, this is going to make us sound like such a bunch of middle class wankers, but here we go. Let's do this. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. Look, for anyone listening to this, don't judge me, okay? I really like oysters, right? That's one of my favourite things. I love oysters, raw oysters, and I like them with a little bit of lemon and a bit of Tabasco buff down the hatch. And we were in this cafe in Dorset, which is just on the west coast of England. And I ordered a bunch of oysters. And my son at the time, who was 5, said, "Mama, can I have an oyster?" And I said, "No, babe, you're not going to like it. You're just not going to like it." And I said, "Also, I think it might make you feel sick because it's quite it's quite a specialist thing, seafood, and it doesn't go down well for everybody in a very literal sense." And he was like on and on and on. And then my partner Chloe said, "Look, just let him have an oyster. And if he's sick, he's sick." I said, "Oh, great. Okay." Well, I said, "Just one." Anyway, he had this oyster, and he was like, "Oh my God, Mama, this is delicious. Can I have another oyster?" And I was like, okay. So he had 2 oysters. He loved them. And ever since then, this kid loves oysters. He loves oysters. He loves steak. He loves sushi. I know. What a bunch of pricks.
It's a very expensive grocery bill there, Jen.
He likes it. I was going to say, this kid, I'm like, "Do you want to get back onto the old spag bowl macaroni cheese train? Because that's the one your brother's on. And I'd love you to go. Some chicken nuggets that... Yeah, so they have quite, they're kids.
I can actually
and so
see you having those conversations with them.
Oh,
as well.
they fight me.
Have they worked you out yet?
Have they worked me out?
Yeah.
Yeah, they say to me, "You're the strict one and Mummy's the easy one." And it used to be, "You're the hard one and Mummy's the kind one." And I'd like, listen up, kiddos. What you're getting is some good old boundaries, something my mum gave me. And look at me, I'm a very fully formed person. I mean, the jury is out with that one, actually.
Having fun. Now listen, let's get on to having a platform and using it for good. This is something that you are really big about right now.
Oh.
I saw this quote the other day by Ruth Bader Ginsburg. "Fight for the things you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you." Jen, how are you feeling right now with your platform?
Well, I'm so fortunate to have a platform. So let's say that from the get-go, that I have this incredible gift that I have been granted. And I think if you are a person, particularly a comedian, I don't think of myself as, this idea of celebrity. No, thank you. But I am a comedian and I'm a performer and I have a platform and I have a voice, and I feel very passionately that if you have that, and it is a privilege to have it, that it comes with a certain amount of responsibility. And it's not just for you to talk about selling shit and furthering, growing your own income and furthering your own career. I think it's also should be used to help causes that are being ignored, to help people that don't have a voice, to amplify platforms that or amplify people's voices that don't have a platform. And so I wherever I can, I try to do that, definitely. Yeah. And I think that's something that we should all be doing. I don't think that should be considered unusual or even like, isn't it amazing? Just do it. I mean, I think it's a responsibility. Yeah.
In one of your recent social media videos, you called out people who can't look you in the eye at the moment. Why is that so frustrating?
I feel like that we have been. I mean, look, this is a separate podcast, but I feel like in lots of ways we've been told and we've been lied to, and lots of things about what we can and what we can't say, what we should and what we shouldn't say, what is real and what isn't real, what the truth is and what the lies are. And
but we are when there's such a feeling of hopelessness. I want to cut in here intentionally.
Yeah, sure.
When there's such a feeling of hopelessness, particularly with what's going on in the Middle East, does it in the big scheme of things? I mean, we really have to pull up our pants, don't we, and do something. Yes.
And I think one of the things is to know that to have some moral clarity. And to have a real understanding about what is right. So when people are saying there isn't a genocide, there isn't, it's Hamas. If you return the hostages, this will all be over. Israel has its right to defend itself. Israel has the right to exist. Israel, it's like slow down. I don't need a PhD in geopolitics to know you don't kill children. You don't starve a population. You don't bomb people while they sleep in their tents. You don't steal their land. You don't enact an apartheid. I don't need anyone on any other platform to tell me that I'm wrong, because I know I'm right. And that's it. The end. I'm right. So when I know I'm right, I don't care what you say to me. I don't care what you threaten me with. I'm correct. So when I'm correct, I will use my platform, and I find that very easy. I don't find it difficult, and I'm not. I don't go to sleep at night going, have I done the right thing? Am I worried about all these people? Because you will get pushback, and you will get a lot of people telling you that you're an anti-Semite, or that you're wrong, or that you don't know the full story, or that you should keep your mouth shut, or you should stick to telling jokes, all of that stuff. But I know I'm right. And if I thought that our governments were doing the right thing, and if I thought that there was a chance for a ceasefire, and that, aid would flood in, and that people in Gaza would get their lives back, and that Gaza would be rebuilt, and that there would be reparations, and that Israel would be punished, and that we would see equality for Palestinians and their own state and their own sovereignty and their own land, then I would be like, fine, babe. But I'm not seeing that. I'm not even seeing a third of that. I'm not seeing an inch of that. And so while I'm not seeing an inch of that, I'm going to say to people, I don't know if you know, but this is happening. I don't know if you know, but this is happening. I don't know if you know, but I'm doing this. And if you want to help me, you can. That's what I'm going to do. And you must decide what you want to do. You must decide with what you have. And I'm speaking to people with a big platform. I'm not speaking to people who are like, I've got 68 followers. I'm really struggling here. You must decide what you want. Is it more important that you get that sponsorship deal, that you get that big job, that you get that? Or is it more important that you stand up for what's right? Make a decision. How do you sleep at night? I couldn't. But if you can, good luck to you.
So our world powers aren't really doing much at the moment, are they, Jen?
They're not doing it. They're doing less than not much. They are enabling and giving and arming a psychotic fascist government that is acting out a genocide in front of our eyes. And all this what about, just get to fuck with all of that. We don't need to hear any what about. We know what is happening and we have to do everything we can to stop it. Not only to stop it, but to enable a Palestinian state to exist and for them to have their own rights to their own water, to their own electricity, to their own sea, to their own borders, to their own government, to their own education. It's for them to make those decisions. It's not for us and it's not for Israel.
So why is it important for people, individuals, to do something even if it's a little? And I'm reminded of the quote from Edmund Burke, another quote, I love a quote. Nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing because he could do only a little.
Oh, that's a great quote.
Why is it important for us to even do a little, even when we're feeling because we're feeling helpless? Because
it's that classic, when they talk about snowflakes, you're all a bunch of snowflakes and you're all a bunch of woke pricks and you don't know what you're talking about. Well, you get enough snowflakes together, what you're going to get? You're going to get a bloody avalanche. And I think there's bravery in numbers. And if you have a platform and you're visible, then you give other people license to feel brave, because I think there is a lot of fear around speaking out against Israel, and there is a lot of pushback, and I have lost work over it, and that is absolutely true, but I've gained more than I've lost, and I really believe that if there's only so long that they can ignore us. We are at a tipping point. And if you look at any revolution, if you look at any point where you go, there was always a point when the people who were at the coalface were going, this is never going to change. We're never going to make it. Nobody thought the apartheid in South Africa was ever going to end in their lifetime. Nobody thought that. Nobody thought the Berlin Wall was going to come down. Nobody thought that. And there is a point. And when it happens so bloody quickly. But it happens because people don't stop. And you think, and it's going to be something that none of us expect to change it. That will be the thing that changes it. And you'll go, well, maybe boycotting didn't make a difference, or maybe it's everything. You're coming at every angle. We don't know what the thing is going to be that's going to stop this genocide. But what we do know is that there is strength in numbers. And people say to me, what is the point of sticking something on Instagram? I said, because somebody else might see it and it might give them strength to do the same thing. And then it might give them strength to contact their local, grassroots organisation that's campaigning for Palestine or for Sudan or for whatever it is that you feel passionately about. You can do more. We all can do more, and doing nothing is just not an option anymore, I don't think. So find your people, find your connections, find your, we work better as a collective than as an individual. The lie that we've been told that we're individuals and that there's no society, it is a lie. Don't believe it. And we have great strength if we work together. We don't have a go at each other. We don't split. The left is always splitting up and splintering and going off in different directions. We stick together and we say unanimously, not in our name.
And that's what you're doing with your platform. You're calling out the genocide. You're saying, not in my name. And you're saying, everyone, a little bit. Everyone get up and do your little bit. Do what you can.
Sorry, it's just been a very hard week.
No, I know.
It's been such a hard week. And it's hard to always keep rallying the troops, It's just difficult to keep...
But that's what you've been asked to do. That's
yeah. And I will continue to do it. It's just this particular week has been it's been so sad and so difficult, and so many people that are starving to death, and it's just we're trying our best to keep people alive, and we're trying our best to feed people, and we are doing that, but some of the stories we get are just so beyond tragic that you don't know where to put them. So that's why I get fed up of people going, I just don't, I find it a bit, it's, the whole whataboutery is, and the fear, it's like you're going to eat a lovely meal today, and your children are fed, and you've got a roof over your head, and you're safe. And people are dying of starvation. You know, I look at my children and I think, I'm just so lucky. I'm so lucky to have them, to kiss them at night and know that when I wake up in the morning, they'll be alive. You know, I can't believe why I'm so lucky and other people are watching their children starve to death or lose them in a shelling at night. And I think that is the thing that keeps me going, because we all should want the same thing, I think. And I feel sad that people think it doesn't affect them, and it's not any of their business. It's all of our business. And remember, if they can do that to them, they can do it to you, and they can do it to your children.
Are there conversations around the genocide that you're having with your children, with the boys?
It's a very difficult conversation to have.
Because I've started.
Yes, and they are. I mean, they've been great because, you know, there's so many things that are on the boycott list that my children love. You know, McDonald's, Disney, Coca-Cola. You know, Fanta Lemon, all of that, and with that, we've had to get rid of all of that, all of the stuff that they love. But my son, he went to a birthday party recently, and it was very touching, because when I came home from work, Chloe said to me, you know, he went to the birthday party and they went to McDonald's after. They went, and he's just said, oh, I don't eat McDonald's. So he just didn't everyone else had a party bag and you know, Happy Meal, and he didn't have anything. He just sat there, and I felt so sad. I was like, oh God, I'm ruining my...
But look what you're giving him. Look at that foundation that you've given him, that starting point for the rest of his life.
Yes, I hope so. And he did say to me, do you know what, Mama, I don't actually like McDonald's. And I was like, great, okay, good. Well, then I've helped you there. You're not going to eat that crap ever again.
Jen, a lot of people are feeling exactly what you're feeling. Thank you.
I hope so.
What a lot of people are, and a lot of people are feeling more and more confident about speaking up about it because of people like you with platforms.
You've got nothing to lose now. I think it's just do it. Do what you can. That's all you can do.
You speak of a boycott list. Is there one that we can find?
Well, you can download. There's an app, and it's called the No Thanks app. And on that list of, it has like a scanner where you can scan. You know, if you're in a supermarket, you can scan items, and it will say to you, "Oh yes, this is on the boycott list, or this isn't." Now, look, when you find out what's on the boycott list, it's going to blow your mind. So you might be like, "Jen, I literally am going to have to get a veg garden, and you know, yeah." And start buying some like cattle and drinking, you know, milk from the cow. But I think there are some main ones that you can boycott quite easily, like Starbucks and McDonald's and Coca-Cola and Haribo, Colgate toothpaste, and there's like a whole bunch that you can boycott immediately, and then. You know, all of these companies are investing in this genocide, and that is taking money away from companies. That's one way that I can guarantee you will work, and they will feel it, and it will make a difference. And if that means that company divests from Israel, then that will make a huge difference. You know, so that's what we're asking. And when those companies divest, then boom, we'll start buying their products again.
I am glued to your content. Your content is the first place I go to every morning when I wake up, because I know you've done the work, and I know you've softened the blow. It's a little bit selfish. It's probably not, but like I know you've done the work, and I know wherever you are, I need to be as a human.
At the beginning, I found it really hard, really, really hard to And also because I sort of went about it the wrong way. I felt like I need to see every single story. I need to absorb myself in every single catastrophe and massacre. I need to know everything. And actually that, when I'm trying to do the work that I'm doing, which is supporting people in Gaza and keep them alive and feed them and give them medicine and all of the things that they need that they're not being given,
I need to be a bit more robust. And so, and I get a great deal of strength from doing the work that I'm doing. So generally, people say to me, how do you do it? I do it because, one, I can, and two, because it gives more than it takes away. Obviously, it takes up a lot of my time. That is true. But of me, I think I've gotten more than it's taken. Yes, I do get upset. You know, I'm a human being, but day to day, I feel like the action, the moving forward, the not giving up is the thing that really gives me energy and strength. And you know, I have zero regrets that I'm of anything I've said or anything that I'm doing. And I'm sure it will come back to bite me on the arse. People will go through my social media and they'll try and cancel me. I have no doubt that at some point someone's going to try and do that to me. And when that moment comes, if it comes, I'll be like, I'll still be no regrets. I'll never have no regrets because I know that I'll have done the right thing.
So your third food memory is an insane Christmas Eve spread.
Well, Christmas Eve at our house was always completely bananas because my mum, being Spanish, celebrated Christmas Eve. That was the main meal. So in Spain, the main meal is Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day. I'm sure there is celebrations, but it's not. That's not the day that it's celebrated. And I think that might be the same in most Mediterranean countries. It's Christmas Eve is the day. So my mum would go to this. You know, I talked about this Spanish deli, the Spanish supermarket. So we'd go and she would buy up, you know, all the foods like tins of pulpo and squid, and then she would buy sugared almonds and turon, and we'd have these big bags of like these sort of salted crisps, but they were like cooked in olive oil. So very different from the crisps. I guess they were kind of like hand-cooked crisps, but you couldn't, I mean, this was like the 80s, for God's sake. No one's eating hand-cooked crisps in the 80s. And then we would get things like, then my mum would cook a paella. Then she would also do mussels. She'd steam mussels. She'd make meatballs. Then we'd have prawns a pil pil. Then, there's
everything.
It would be everything.
And she'd cook on her own.
Yeah, she'd do it all on her own. She'd spend all day, maybe a couple of days preparing. And we would have this absolutely enormous spread that my mum would have gone to so much trouble to do for everybody, for the whole family, that we'd all sit around and eat. You know, then she'd wash everything up, then she'd put everything away, and then she'd be forced to get up at the crack of dawn the next day for Christmas Day because, of course, we would wake up at 5 a.m. and want to open our presents. And then she would cook a big roast dinner on Christmas Day. I mean, God, I don't think we ever thanked her enough. And that, you know, of course, my dad wasn't helping. And then she'd do the whole...
But that's another story.
That's a different podcast. And then she'd do the whole big traditional Christmas dinner on the next day. But of course, you know, because particularly when you're a young kid, you don't, you know, it's not that I of course I liked eating, but I never had a humongous appetite. So I would be like left over, like not hungry from the night before. And also we'd eat the meal really late. So we'd have the meal at like 9, 10 at night. And then by the time we woke up and it was like having lunchtime, I was like, oh, Jesus, Mum, I don't know if I can eat this Christmas dinner. But anyway, that is the thing that I remember most. So when people say they remember their Christmas dinner meal, for me, it was always Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve for me was always the best meal. It was always the most exciting meal. Probably also because we were all excited it was going to be Christmas Day the next day. And my mum would also do this traditional thing. I don't know if my mum said it was very Spanish, but I'm not convinced this is true. Where we would get like a little tiny, it was not even like a shot glass, but like a tiny, tiny little glass, like a little thimble glass that my parents had. I don't know what they were left over from, where she would put like a little bit of Baileys. Yeah. And then, and then we would drink this Baileys. This is every Christmas. And I still love Baileys. And it was honestly, well, it's an alcoholic milkshake, isn't it? You know, give your kids whiskey and cream before bed. I think partly, Sava, she gave it to us because she wanted us to sleep. She was like, this might help you sleep because you kids are off the charts, bouncing. And I remember that as well, just having this little thimble full of booze.
So your kids are like 10 now, do they get a thimble of Baileys?
They don't get a thimble of Baileys, Sava, no. But we do still keep up the tradition of having a big thing on Christmas Eve. So my children have always known Christmas Eve to be paella day, because we always did a paella. But then my mum died, and then I tried a paella, and everyone went, let's not do paella day again. It wasn't as good as my mum's. And so now we just do like a day with lots of different meals, like tapas and things, and that's what we do.
Now, your social cause, speaking of relations, is something that you've been a very big part of, is called All Our Relations. Please tell me about All Our Relations.
So All Our Relations, we started actually this week in May. This is our 1-year anniversary. So we started it on the 7th, I think it was the 6th or 7th of May, and 2024. And it was in response to obviously the genocide in Gaza, and seeing so many families that were destitute. There was aid coming in, but it was being ransacked and resold, and very difficult to, impossible prices for people to buy. And so what we decided we wanted to do before we launched it was the idea is that any families that wanted to evacuate, would help them evacuate, and any families that wanted to stay, would support them and continue to support them in Gaza, like it would be up to them. Then the borders shut, and the blockade began, and then that was that. Nobody could leave. And so we started supporting 15 families, and it went up to 18. Now it's 22 families. We're supporting over 200 people. We now have 3 on-the-ground aid projects, which provide food kitchens and food parcels that are delivered to destitute, people that, are destitute. Like if we hear about a mother that doesn't have the right formula, we'll go out and buy the formula, and we'll deliver that formula to her. And also food for her, so that she, because everyone is starving. We at the moment, one of our food kitchens feeds 400 people every day. So that's what we're doing.
And you're coordinating all of that from the UK?
We're coordinating it from here, but also we are merely the people funding it. We coordinate with our family members that are on the ground that are running these projects. They are the people that are running them. They are the ones that are in charge of them, and they are the ones that deserve the credit. And they are doing an incredible job of keeping people alive. They can see, because they're there, they know who needs what. They might say to us, there is a family that I've heard about, and this, like we heard recently, there was 3 children that lost their entire family, and they're now moved into an orphanage. So we sent them a massive food parcel, and so that they have enough food before they get to this orphanage.
Does it get into the country?
Listen, it's a lawless place, and we are able to buy up what is there. We're able to buy up what is there at absolutely bananas prices, and with the commission that we have to pay on top, which is 30 to 35% every time we change money. But we're doing it. We're doing it, and we are. I don't know what's going on, but there is some food that must be getting smuggled in, because we're seeing some fresh produce appearing in the markets again. And so there's people on the outside that must be doing something, but there's not enough food, not even by any stretch of imagination, to feed, 2 million people. No way. But what we're getting, we're buying up in bulk, because people can't afford to buying it and giving it away for free.
How can we support All Our Relations?
Go to our website, allaurrelations.co.uk. You can donate directly to us there. You can set up a monthly donation if you want to. You could say, I'll give you $5 a month, price of a coffee. You can also directly sponsor a family. You can say, do you know what, I'd rather my what we're doing is we're creating, we're feeding everybody. But what we want to do is every family to have a little bundle of cash that is theirs, so that this was during a slightly optimistic moment of mine, when the borders open and evacuations begin, that they have some money, because otherwise they're destitute. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give people, we're trying to give people money so that they have agency and they can make choices later on. We're trying to feed people and keep people alive. And we're doing everything that we can to support the wider communities of where our families are living. And we will continue to do that until, forever. That's just what we're going to do now.
The name of the website again?
It's allaourrelations.co.uk, and all of the information on our non-profit is there. And we would, and if you want to volunteer, you want to find out, and you want to maybe say, I'd love to, be a family liaison for a family, because we have lots of families that don't have anyone that is looking after them personally. You can find out. You can contact us directly through the email on the website.
We have an MFK Fisher Serve It Forth tradition here at TFM, where our previous guest presents you with a dish. Now, I've buggered up the order of guests, so our forward guest, Sarah Wilson, is paying you backwards, if you understand my... So she's a guest that's coming afterwards, so she's after you, so she's paying you backwards, if you can keep up with me. I think that's how it's going to work. Now, her dish that she'd like to serve is a chicken curry that she was served from a cauldron with banh mi, a beautiful crusty bread roll.
Yes, Vietnamese bread roll, yeah.
That saved her from a biblical food poisoning. How do you feel about this dish?
Well, how did it save her from food poisoning?
Well, I mean, so Sarah had this enormous food poisoning. She'd eaten something from a street vendor that she knew she shouldn't, and then she's such an intrepid traveller. She took a 9-hour bike ride up like a steep hill to get to a particular village, and she was sick, and she knew if she'd stop that was it. She wasn't going to make it to the next bit. Anyway, her brother managed to find her a soup. And so she had this chicken soup, and she said it was like electronic pulses that went right through her body.
Wow.
So she speaks of the collagen and the spices and the herbs and all the rest of it, but it was that bread that gave her the sustenance to get through. So that's what she'd like to serve you.
I would love it. I mean, that sounds like a meal from heaven.
Vietnamese chili or tourist chili?
Can we go tourist? I mean, let's not fuck about.
Now, because of my stuff up, we're going to leapfrog, and so you're going to serve the guest after that person.
Okay.
What would you like to serve them?
Well, I'm going to serve them a dish that I had in Nepal. I had been out. Oh, God. I think what we're going to get mostly from this is that I'm not prepared for the real world. I was out. I was in Nepal, and I had just finished this walk where I'd gone up to the Annapurna base camp, and I'd come back again. Now, there's a few things that had gone wrong along the way. Okay, that whole journey from Annapurna base camp, that had taken 10 days because we'd got snowed in. A couple of things that we had done wrong. We hadn't taken enough money with us to eat. So very quickly, we didn't realise when we budgeted it that the food got more expensive as you went up the mountain. And we had really budgeted for being at the bottom of the mountain, and we had not budgeted for being at the top of the mountain. So we had gone for several days hiking for 10 hours a day on biscuits. Okay, we were so hungry. We were just on these shitty biscuits. We could afford one meal a day, which we'd have at the end of the day. I don't know why we decided it was like the thing that kept us going with that one meal we were going to have at the end of the day. And the rest of the day, we're just eating these blinking biscuits. Anyway, we go up the wrong side of the mountain because I see a map that goes, oh, you can either go right around. God, that looks like ages. Or look, guys, there's a line that goes straight up. Let's just go straight up. That's quicker. We want to get there quick, right? Moron. Anyway, the reason why you're supposed to go round the mountain is because then it's not so steep. So we're going up the steepest side of the mountain. By day 3, day 4, I can't breathe. I'm like, we've got, the air is really thin. We haven't eaten. We've only eaten biscuits, and we're literally going up a vertical hill. So by the time we come down from this 10-day extravaganza we have all lost about a stone. We are absolutely starving. And we arrive, we arrive back in Pokhara, and we decide we're going to go out for a meal. And we see this place. It sells momos, which are Nepalese dumplings. And we've been recommended momos. Go get yourself some momos. Momos are delicious. We're like, we're going to go to this place. It's really tiny. It's only like 2 or 3 tables. As soon as we step in through the door, the woman is like, come and sit down. What would you like? And we were like, all the momos. So we order all of the momos. But this is not a restaurant. This is a woman in her hut, and she's steaming these momos on her own. So it's taken her time. There's a couple of other tables that are there before us. So she's feeding them first. We're there for an hour and a half. I swear to God, my stomach has eaten itself. I'm like, I don't even remember what food tastes like. Is this what it's like just before you die? We're salivating. We can see other people's momos. We're like, oh my God, this looks like the best thing ever. 2 hours we wait for these momos to come. 2 hours. And by the way, no one's coming with bread and olives, okay? We're just waiting for the fucking momos. So the momos arrive. There's these dumplings. And I swear to God, it was like the best thing I've ever eaten in my entire life. It was the best thing I've ever eaten.
That's what we're serving our next guest, momos.
And I just don't think your guest will ever have a momo like it. These momos. Or the only thing I'm going to have to specify, they have to have done a 10-hour hike and not eaten all day. And then these momos, I swear to God, it's going to be the best meal they've ever had. And you're welcome, by the way.
So tell us what we are to expect from Reactive.
I mean, this show is basically where I am right now in my life. And it's basically, I'm a 50-year-old woman and I have got, if you haven't picked that up, lots of opinions about lots of things and they're very fixed and I'm not going to move them. And I'm also a person that sometimes doesn't think before they speak. And maybe they should. And sometimes that's a superpower, and sometimes it really isn't. So it's really the show is just an excuse for me to talk about things that are happening in my life right now, and hopefully make people laugh. And it is one of my favourite shows actually that I've ever written. I'm really enjoying performing it, and it's going to be very new when I bring it to Australia and New Zealand. I'm literally showcasing it there. It's going to be debuting. The whole tour starts in Australia. And I tell you, the great thing about that is I'm going to be flying by the seat of my pants. And also the other thing is I won't be bored of it. It's not boring for me yet. You know, come at this time next year, I'll be like, yeah, got to go to Stratford upon Avon, Jesus. But right now I'm like, I can't wait to say all these words. I'm looking forward to it.
I've noticed there's shows that have been added. Are you going to add any? Do you have any time to add any more to the rota?
I've said to them, no more shows. It is quite tight, and I haven't got many days off. I will say, if you live in Hobart, please come, because it turns out I'm not big in Tassie.
I have one final question for you. Let's finish where we started. If your mother was here right now with you, Jen, what would she say?
Hurry up. This has been going on for ages.
Well, that's probably a good thing, because we've come to a beautiful end. Thank you for reminding us of our right to exhibit freedom of speech, to call out inhumanity and justice, and thank you for making us laugh. See you in Australia soon.
Sava, thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy, and thank you for asking me to come on.
That's it for this episode of 3 Food Memories. Be sure to spread the plated love and check out our 60-plus back episodes. They're still as delicious as they were when they came out of the oven. On the next episode, you'll meet the one and only Sarah Wilson. For all things TFM, head to the socials at 3 Food Memories for more info, and to send us a message, head to 3foodmemories.com. 3 Food Memories is edited by Lauren McWhirter with original music by Russell Torrance. Nasta kalafili, and bye for now.
Thank you for listening to Papa's podcast. Don't forget to like